Hello everybody and welcome back to today's marvelous new video and this intro that is going nowhere. Today we have 5 serial killer traits. If you're ready, buckle in because I have a long one. Well, kind of a long one to me at least. And number 5 is a very interesting one, so make sure you watch all the way through and let's get started. Murder is a manifestation of the universal failure of values, said by Colin Wilson, an English writer, philosopher and a novelist who would write many books on true crime before the genre was even a thing. He would write over 100 books in his lifetime. 100, you guys, 100! One of which relates heavily to today's video, which is the Encyclopedia of Murder, co-written by Patricia Bittman in 1962. Now, before we start, let's put a definition to a serial killer. A serial killer is a person who would commit a series of 3 or more murders within the span of a month, usually following an almost very ritualistic type of a behavior. There is no generic profile for a serial killer, so they could come from all walks of life and they could kill for all sorts of reasons. Some might not need reasons at all. They would just kill for the thrill of it. So it is believed by Colin Wilson, the English writer, that serial killers are naturally dominant, and due to their early lives where they were forced to be passive without having much say in it, that kind of leads them to feeling repressed and irrelevant. And also what could lead a person to becoming a serial killer is their low self-esteem. That the only way that they could feel that they exist is by killing. There are many scientists on top of their fields who believe that serial killers are born a plain slate ready to be written on until this one thing goes wrong in their lives, where, let's say for example, it's an abusive father or an alcoholic mother or an absent father or anything really that could trigger them to have this urge to want to kill. Okay, at number 1 on the list we have psychopathy. It is a mental illness and a personality disorder in which an individual manifests immoral and antisocial behaviors and lacks ability to love and form meaningful relationships. They could also be extremely egoistic and fail to learn from their past experiences. And in order to satisfy their own needs, they are ready to lie, charm, and sometimes use violence and intimidation to their advantage. Now, there are 4 factors to psychopathy: interpersonal, affective, lifestyle, and antisocial. Let's start with antisocial. It is the factor that in childhood could lead them to get into a lot of trouble because they have poor behavioral controls and cannot really control themselves. Everything is just an urge and just an impulse. They could also feel detached and disconnected from everything around them. That applies even to their family and their own actions. So they could feel detached from their own actions and their own family. They don't feel like they belong to anything around them. The lifestyle factor basically refers to their actions and behaviors. They are thrill seekers, so they chase the high of the thrill. And basically they are impulsive and irresponsible. They also lack realistic goals and seek the thrill in pretty much everything they do. The interpersonal factor is what it shows on the outwards of their personality. So basically what you see from talking to them and getting to know them a little bit more. They can speak or act in an almost too easy way where it seems a little insincere. They could have a charming personality, though it could seem superficial. And they would have an enormous sense of self-worth, as they would always feel that they're better, smarter, and one step ahead of everybody else around them. They can be pathological liars, and be able to easily and thoughtlessly manipulate and lie to everybody around them to get whatever they desire. The effective factor refers to their response to pretty much any external stimuli. So let's say there was a death in the family, God forbid. They would show very little emotions and very little facial expressions. They would almost have a very monotone voice, and generally they would just lack empathy to whatever the situation was. They would lack sympathy for others because they cannot understand emotions themselves. Number 2 is impulsiveness. Many serial killers have said that they have tried before to change their lives, even went as far as making it harder for them to kill. However, the drive to kill is so powerful in them that they cannot control it. And back to when I said they felt detached from their own actions, this is how they justify it basically, as I was just going along with it. At number 3, the desire to inflict pain. Due to similar behaviors modeled to them in their early lives, serial killers could feel the urge to inflict pain on others. So even if they're not in a position of power, they would still want to inflict pain on others. Number 4 is animal cruelty. A serial killer can show love and empathy to a human or even a pet. However, never for their victims. They feel nothing towards their victims and only act to satisfy their urges. They are also fully aware of the pain and anguish they are causing by committing that murder. They just don't feel it, therefore they do not care. Psychopaths do not feel emotions the way others do. And usually they do not feel emotions on day-to-day basis. So when they feel the urge to kill, it's usually the first time in a while that they are feeling something. So when they give up and finally take a life, they feel better and they feel good. And that high is what makes them go back again and again to becoming the serial killer they are. And finally, at number 5 is childhood trauma. Now, if you noticed, every other point we talked about went back to their early lives. So, childhood trauma is the prolonged humiliation and degrading of a young person by either their guardian or a person that is in power and they could not retaliate against. That could lead the child to want to take out their frustration and anger on something that is weaker and smaller than them. It is often the family pet or any wild animal. Setting fires is also a coping mechanism for kids. It is used to vent out emotions of anger, inadequacy, and helplessness. It is a way for them to show themselves that they still establish some sort of power on something that is stronger than them. These were 5 traits of serial killers. If you enjoyed today's video, please leave me a like down below, subscribe if you want to, and I'll see you in my next one. Goodbye!